Hi everyone, it's Jen from Teal and Finch, and today I'm going to show you how to make the Cirra shawl. So I think you're going to love it. Let me tell you more about it and then we'll get started. So the Cirra shawl is a cozy little shawlette that starts right here in the center, and we're going to use half double crochets and slip stitch to go back and forth in rows, and we'll gradually increase that way. And then there is a striping pattern that I don't go over too much in the video, but it is in the written version on my blog. You could check that out there. I use 3 skeins of yarn, and the full width is about 46 inches. So just so you can see from tip to tip what it looks like. And then the height is 19 when you're all done. So in the video I will show you how to get started and how the pattern repeats. The full instructions are on my blog for the written pattern. All right, so I hope you enjoy. All right, so let's get started. You will need some worsted weight yarn, and we're going to need 570 yards or thereabouts, so about 600 yards. And I'm using Knit Picks Comfy Worsted, but any number 4 yarn is totally fine. I'm using a J hook, which is a 6mm hook. And you will also need your scissors, your yarn needle, and one of these little stitch markers. If you don't have one, you could just use a paper clip. That would totally work, or a little piece of scrap yarn. All right, so that's all you need. All right, so we are going to start out with a slip knot. And chain 4, slip stitch to join and make a ring. All right, and now we're going to be working inside our ring. If you've never done that before, you just kind of open it up and you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but there is a little hole in the center of your ring. So we're going to work in there. All right, so row 1. We are going to chain 1, slip stitch in your ring, then a half double crochet, another slip stitch, half double, and we end with a slip stitch. So we have 5 stitches: the slip stitch, half double, slip stitch, half double, slip stitch, and that chain 1 does not count as a stitch. So we have 5 stitches there in our ring. Okay, so now we're ready for row 2, and you'll need your stitch marker. We're going to be placing this in the center stitch of every row from now on. All right, so we chain 1 and turn. So in this row, we're going to be increasing in the first and the last stitch, and I'll show you how to do that. So chain 1, and the first stitch is a slip stitch right here. So we're going to half double, slip, and then half double all in that same stitch. Okay, so that's our increase. Then the next stitch is a half double, so we slip into that. The next stitch is a slip stitch, so we half double into the slip stitch. The next stitch is a half double, so we slip into that stitch. Okay. Then the last stitch is our slip stitch, so we're going to half double, slip stitch, and then half double all in this one stitch. Okay. So then you'll notice in the pattern, it we'll have the center stitch is in bold, and that's a half double crochet. So and you can count too. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that little half double crochet in the middle is our center stitch. So it's the fifth, number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 stitches in row 2 with our stitch marker in the middle. Okay, so row 3, we are going to increase in that center stitch. So the pattern all along will be every time you see a half double, you're going to slip stitch into that. Every time you see a slip stitch, you'll half double into that one. All right, so this row we're going to increase in the middle. So chain 1 and just start with our pattern, slip stitch, half double, and just keep going with that until you reach the marked stitch. Okay, in the center marked stitch, since it's a half double, we're going to do a slip, a half double, and a slip, all in that one stitch. And then we're going to make sure we put our stitch marker in that half double since it was the center stitch. Then we just continue to the end of the row, half double, can be a little tight sometimes. Once you get your rhythm, it will be fast. And we end with a slip stitch in that last stitch. All right, so that row we increased by 2, so we should now have 11 stitches in this row. Okay, so there's 11. Okay, row 4. This again, we're going to increase on the 2 stitches on the end. So this stitch marker for this row is just along for the ride, and we're just going to move it up as we move past it in this row. So I'll show you how to do that. All right, now this row, chain 1 and turn. Ooh, hello. And our first stitch is a slip stitch. So we're going to half double, slip, and half double all in that same stitch for our increase. And now we're ready to just slip, half double, slip, half double until we get to the marked stitch. So since we're increasing on the ends, we're not going to increase in the middle for this row. So when we get to this one, we're just going to slip and then put the marker right back in that slip stitch. So it might feel a little like, oh, why do we have to do this? But it's going to save you a lot of counting. Instead of having to count every row throughout this whole shawl, which I did not want to do. I'm sure you don't either. We're going to use that little stitch marker. Okay, so then the slip stitch at the end of the row, we half double, slip, and half double. Okay, so that was row 4, and we increased by 2 on each side, so now we have 15 stitches. Okay, row 5, chain 1 and turn. So slip. In this row, we're going to be increasing in the middle again. Half double, So just keep on going until you get to the mark stitch, slip half double. Okay, so we're increasing in the middle stitch, so we're going to take that out, and it's a slip stitch, so we're going to start with the half double and then slip and then half double and put our marker in the slip stitch in the middle. All right, slip stitch, half double, all the way to the end of the row. All right, so we added 2 stitches on that row, so now we should have 17. Okay, row 6. So now we're back to our increases on the ends. So we chain 1 and turn. And now this is a slip stitch, so we're going to start with the half double, slip, and half double, all in that first stitch, and then we're just going to half double and slip all across. When you get to that stitch marker, you just remove the marker and then place it back in. So you just take it out, half double, put it back. All right, and then we continue to the end. Okay, and this last one is a slip stitch. So, we're just going to half double. Okay, if it gets a little pulled or a little tight, you can just kind of take your hook and pull it out a little. So we half double in there. Okay, so half double, slip, and half double. Okay, so we added 4 stitches to that row, so now we should have 21. Okay, row 7. So row 7, we're going to now increase in the middle. I think you're starting to see the pattern here, and that's really the pattern, is just every other row we increase in the center or on the edges. So this one will increase in the middle, and then just make sure you mark that middle stitch, and then you won't have to keep counting. So all you have to really remember is, am I increasing on the center stitch or on the first and last? So this one's the center, so we're going to slip, half double, and then slip, all in that same stitch. Remember to put the marker back, and then finish to the end of the row. Double slip. Okay, so this was the end of row 7, and we added 2 stitches, so we will have 23 stitches. There you go. Okay, so the written pattern has you keep going. So rows 8, 9, 10, and 11 are just the same pattern as what we've been doing. So either you're increasing on the outside stitches, or you're increasing in the center stitch. And maybe if you have some extra stitch markers, you could think of a system where after you increase, you put a stitch marker in it, just so you don't forget or something. So I know as it gets bigger and bigger, it can be easy to forget where you're increasing. So maybe just use your stitch markers to help you. And I wanted to show you how to change colors if you haven't changed colors before. So the row before, like let's say you want the next row to be gray. So say this is my last yellow row. So what I will do is, as I'm getting to the end of the row, I have one more stitch, and it's a slip stitch. So I insert my hook, and I'm going to grab the yarn and pull through, but instead of doing that with the yellow, I grab the yarn and pull through with my new color. Pull that tight, and now I'm ready to go with my new color. So the gray will be next. Okay, so if you're doing it on, let's say you were doing it on a half double crochet, let's say the half double crochet was the last stitch in the row, you would go ahead and yarn over, insert, pull up, and then it's the very last yarn over, pull through, where you add the new color. So there you go with the new color. You just pull it through like that, tighten, and then you're ready to chain one and turn, and you're on your way with the new color. Okay, so I hope that helps, and you can find the written pattern in the description if you want to look at that, and I hope you enjoy.